Welcome to today's solution overview video. Today's discussion topics and demo are going to be around the Webdocs for AP and the accounts payable automation. In this process, there are a few different stages inside of the process that documents can be captured from different sources, so email, network folders, scanned documents, and then take that information and documents, classify them with the advanced capture engine, and then extract all the data, verify that data, and then pass it into either a PO-based process or non-PO-based process, all the way back to the ERP system if three-way matching is required. A little bit more detail on this process here. So today what you're going to be seeing is we're going to be covering the capture, the unattended document capture and processing. So being able to capture documents from different sources, transform that data, meaning taking that information, OCRing it, classification of the document, and then doing full data extraction and verification to two- and three-way matching process. And then we'll be talking and showing in the live demonstration on how the verification for workflows works for exception documents that come through the process, but also the approval process from users that might need to touch those documents during that stage. Then we'll touch on the export processes, and then we'll also touch on the utilization and how users get to those documents either via workflow or the secure document repository on the back end. The process starts with the capture of the document. So being able to take that information and capture it into the system automatically, either via email monitors, network monitoring, or also scanned document processing. So here's what this process looks like in action. I'm going to take some of these documents here. I'm going to throw them into the process just to simulate the capture process. This could be scanning of documents. It could be email monitoring of these documents to be able to process it through the system. As these documents are being processed, they'll be picked up here, and then the system will actually be doing that classification and full data extraction of these documents as they go through the cycle inside the system. Now, what I'm going to be covering now is sort of what's happening behind the scenes as those documents are being captured. When these documents are being captured, the first thing it's going through the individual stations on the back end to be able to do auto classification of the document. So it's figuring out, hey, what kind of document is this? Is it multiple documents that are inside of a single PDF document? So if we're monitoring an email account, is there a single PDF that might contain multiple invoices and need to be split up? It's doing image cleanup. It's doing OCR data extraction at the header and footer level, all the way down to the line item detail if you need to go down to that level. It's doing data validation to the ERP of the extracted data. It's applying business rules to the data to make sure that the data is correct as extracted, and then also can flag any kind of broken business rule inside of here as well and alert an operator. The last part of it is the matching process. So a lot of times in stage one verification process, we are matching the vendor to make sure the vendor's there. Is there a PO in the system and things like that? And then we handle it at the front end. And then the back end of the process, the three-way matching, is done at the ERP level. There are really three different processes that the document can go on, or three different flows. The first one is after the documents are captured and gone through the OCR extraction process and validation process, if everything is past those verifications and validations, we can then pass that information straight to the ERP, even into an automation bot if we need to be able to, take that information and process it in, and then take the documents and push it into the Webdocs DMS system. The process that we'll be showing here shortly is what we call the exception document during the capture process. So being able to flag those if they break a business rule or couldn't extract a certain level of data that was required off of it, and we give what we call a user in the loop interface for those different kinds of documents that are in that process. Then we can also kick it into what we call a document workflow approval. If the document fails that process and the operator correct it. So say it's a non-PO invoice, it comes into the system and it's over a certain amount, the operator then can pass it through, and then it will go through the document approval stage inside the system. Now, from the user in the loop interface that we give the users to be able to do the verification of those invoices, we use what we call the verification station to do that. This verification station gives the user that side-by-side view of the document along with the data itself. So you'll see here in just a second, when this document batch pulls open here, you'll see that I have everything I need to do my approvals and review inside of this process. So the document is sitting inside of here, the document list of all the approvals that need to happen, and then also all the data that was extracted during this process is shown to me at this point too. So I can see this and validate the information and see that all the information was extracted correctly. Now, we don't expect the operator to know what the problem is on the document. So we already know that problem. So we have what we call this rules or message center in the bottom left-hand corner down here that gives you the capability to be able to accept the errors and also be able to review these errors that are on here. So if I click on this, you'll see that there was an allowed deviation of 10%, but I'm over my 10%. So it actually flagged this for an operator to do the correction. Now, if I don't accept this error, when the document goes through the system, it would then go into a workflow process to be able to be picked up by the document workflow. If I do accept this error, it will then just pass that process and be verified and go through more of that straight through process to the ERP system afterwards. The system is a very smart system to be able to calculate its own data that it extracted, meaning that say that the system actually picked up a 1 instead of a 2 in this case here in this line item, you'll see when I try to do the validation against it, it's smart enough to know, and it actually did an arithmetic rule error check on this one. So it flagged it as an error so that I need to correct that information or review that information because something has been incorrectly processed into the system. So in this case here, we can actually do the validation, and then I'm going to move on to the next document. And in this document example here, this is a perfect example of a document that we get 95% of the information correct on the document, right? It extracted all the line item information, it extracted the header footer information, but it didn't get where the item number is because it's a little different kind of a formatting structure of this invoice. Now, this is where we can use the self-learning technology to be able to teach it where this information is, so the next time that it sees this document, it doesn't encounter these errors. So what's an exception today does not have to be an exception tomorrow, because the user can actually do some self-learning and teaching during the exception process on here. Now, this next document example is an example of purely just it doesn't know what to do in this case, right? Because there's multiple matches that were found. So in this case here, there was 4 records that were found simply because we're only using the phone number, and Burke in this case has 4 locations that use the same main line. So in some cases, I can actually make this definition smarter by using the phone number and the zip code, so that I would actually look and be able to auto-select that. Or in this case, I can, in this example right here, I can actually just come in and click on my little info button there and go to my vendor master table to select that information and then process it through. After these documents and exceptions have been reviewed and the documents are cleansed at that point and verified, we can then hit what we call the send the batch button. That send the batch button takes those documents and then puts it through that entire process for the back end processing. What I'm going to cover now is more of the view around, so this was the operator view from the exception handling at the document capture level. So what's it look like from the standpoint of, from a user standpoint, if I have to do approval inside of a workflow? Now, the Webdocs for Windows system has the capability and has a fully functional routing system built into it to be able to create all different kinds of workflow and routing routes inside of here for exception documents or just departmental-based processes. So we can actually set these different workflows up inside of here. It's a very simple and quick designer to be able to create these as drawing boxes and then adding your users to those boxes and then assigning different things that that user can do at these different steps, all the way down to the time expiration level inside of here too, measured in hours, days, and weeks. So I can set a restriction on here saying documents need to be out of this inbox within 3 days. If 3 days are met, we will actually take some kind of action on that step then at that point. Now, when users get that information, they can get emails and email links to the documents. So they can click on them and then authenticate into the system. The Webdocs interface is fully web browser enabled. So they have the capability to come in here and actually type their username and password in the browser, so no application needs to be installed. When they log into the system, they would go into what we call the home screen or message center, and then they can click on what we call our inbox capabilities here, and then from that standpoint, they can say, hey, I need to go and review this document. These are all the documents that are in my approval in basket, so they can actually select that and see all the information that was extracted at the document level during the advanced capture system process, and then they can review this information and then make any changes they need to. During the workflow process, you can see the workflow routes over here. So these are the different capabilities you gave that user or inbox during that process. And then that user can also do some kind of annotation on the document if they need to. So say that the quantity that was that was received was only 100 or something like that, or only 150. They can come in here and highlight the quantity. They can put sticky notes and different things on the documents inside of here to be able to, show the next person in line for approval why that this is an error or something like that, right? So they can actually pull those corrections off during this process here. Now, from the standpoint, so this is the built-in routing system. Now, we do have capability if you need to go an extra step. So there's a lot of times GL coding and stuff needs to happen as well. So we do have what we call the advanced routing form that gives you the capability. So the same thing as what the Webdocs Windows did. It showed you the data and all that stuff, but it goes a step farther. It gives you the capability to be able to do GL coding and stuff by the line item. So as we're extracting that information, if you need to be able to do GL coding during the routing process, this would be the interface that we'd be using for that, or the routing form that we'd be using for this process. So we do have that capability as well. That is part of the system if that requirement is there. Now, one of the other things I just want to show really quick is the capability around just the document searching capabilities, right? So, I need to come to the system and I need to find all information that pertains to a certain PO. So I can come in here and do what we call a quick search, or I can do an advanced search inside of here, find all the information that is assigned to that PO. I can say, hey, I need to see the invoice that was for that PO, and then click on that, and then we have those same in-browser actions over here for the annotations that they can do is highlight and stuff, and then see all the information. They can also see if this is in a workflow step during the process for approval. So all that information is tagged there from that standpoint. Fully audit and version controlled. So as these documents are being captured and managed inside of our system, they are fully audit and version controlled with our system. And then all these buttons here up on top that you see are all security-based controls that you can give different users to be able to do different things with those documents. So they can download, you can take the email functions away, or give people those different functions. So it's very easy to be able to do that process there. Now, from the what we call the integration level, right? So people always ask us from the integration level, how can we do integration to our system? Our system might be a legacy system, our system might be a newer web-based system. We have all different ways to be able to do integration into different systems. So if it's Windows-based, if it's IBM IDB2-based, it really doesn't make a difference to us, because the different ways that we can do integration is our standard method, right, is our import file. So we can export files out of our system to be able to push to an import process. And our standard file format is usually an XML file, but that could be a CSV or an XLS file as well during that process. Option 2 is our REST API. So we have a full integrated REST API into our system to be able to do that integration. If you have like a web-based system or a newer technology-based system, we can use our integrated REST API to do that same process and just pass the data to the REST API. And then we also have RPA technology underneath our brand as well that gives you the capability to be able to write automation bots. So we can integrate into not only the back-end APIs with this integration capability, but also the front-end integration, what we call front of glass. So say that if there's no API that you have to be able to do that integration, we can actually log into screens and do automated entry into those screens with the data that was extracted. All right. Thank you for your time today. That was our Webdocs for AP Solution Overview video. If you have any questions, feel free to call us and we can schedule a live demonstration. Thank you.